So Collector has been long identified as a potential wind farm site. We have a very strong connection with the 330 kV transmission lines running across the northern end of the site, and the wind resource is very well known, very well established. There's 6 or 7 other existing wind farms in the area. It was originally identified back in the late 2000s as a possible site. We had a couple of wind masts put up and started engaging with the landowners. We have 5 landowners who own the property on which we're building the wind farm.
When RATCH picked it up in about, I'm not sure when it was, 2010 or so, we were very keen to get involved. We're I suppose conservation farmers. We've always had managed our farm to look after native pastures and things like that. It came along at a really good time and we were very keen to jump on board. Would that be right?
Yeah. Yes, and we love the look of them too. I can even remember before they spoke here when we were in Victoria somewhere and we saw them as we were driving around. I said, oh wow, they looked impressive, and not ever thinking that we were going to get them until later on down the track. The concerns or the angst that was raised previously seems to have quietened down.
Are you concerned about the noise when it's finished?
No, I don't think so. I don't think because it's so far out, you won't be able to hear it.
We actually went around to quite a few wind farms before we took it on, and we were pretty satisfied that there's no...
And the sheep graze, that's what I love. You see the sheep and cattle grazing underneath and it's not interrupting the land in any way, and they can still graze right underneath. And
No concerns whatsoever. We've lived with the wind towers just across the road here for the last 10 or 15 years, and quite frankly the highway makes more noise than the wind towers.
What about health?
Good for your health. Look, there was a lot of talk about health and whether it was going to give you headaches or stop the chooks laying eggs or whatever. There was a fair bit of it was almost the focus of the anti-wind farm thing. And I think since then it's actually become, well, the fact that it's been pretty well disproven that there's nothing to worry about.
I can't see that either. I'm an engineer by trade, and all it is a generator on top of a pole. I can't see any health issues at all.
Obviously, landowners is one of those things you need to manage closely. Always remember that you're a guest here. You can't just go ahead and do whatever.
Very important that we communicate very clearly and very frequently about what's happening, because all 5 of those properties are working farms, and so we will continue to manage to ensure that we don't impact on their existing farming operations, and that they have an operating wind farm and an operating farm at the end of it all. So we'll have 54 wind turbines on the site. They are of 4.2 megawatt capacity. Based on the analysis that's been done to date, we're looking at 500 gigawatt hours per year of electricity generation. That's equivalent to the consumption of around about 80,000 homes in New South Wales.
The financing for this project was delivered roughly 50% from our parent company, RATCH-Australia in Thailand, and roughly 50% from the CEFC, the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. As we were getting closer and closer to financial close and construction commencement, we really benefited a lot from the input and involvement of the CEFC. Their wind team have worked on a lot of projects and a lot of transactions, and it was a real benefit to us to be able to incorporate some of their knowledge and some of their learnings into our contractual documents. It's really helped us get a much tighter set of documents that govern this project, and ultimately a cleaner and more efficient outcome for everybody. So one interesting aspect of this project is the fact that we initiated construction without a power purchase agreement or an offtake agreement. We initiated construction under what we called the initially merchant strategy. Since construction commenced, we've been very busy, and we've been out and have signed 2 PPAs for roughly 80% of the output from this wind farm. So roughly 60% will go to Infigen under a 10-year contract, and roughly 20% will go to Aldi also under a 10-year contract. Both of those contracts help underpin the revenues for the project, and the Aldi deal in particular is a very interesting one That's the first corporate PPA we've signed. So the first offtake agreement we've signed directly with a corporate party to help offset their energy needs.
As you can see, we're just doing the bulk fill of the blinding stage, so that's the first stage of the process. After that stage, the bolts will come through, and then the boys will install the reinforcement, and then the formwork will go in before the concrete pours start.
So yesterday we poured our first concrete foundation for the first turbine. It's obviously a landmark event in any wind farm, because that signifies that we're moving beyond the civil stage of work and preparing for the turbines themselves.
We're currently about 3 weeks ahead of schedule, so this pour is our first big milestone and we plan on staying ahead.
The project's going quite well this year, so we've achieved all our milestones that we need to get. We should have somewhere like 20 odd foundations in the ground as we move into the new year, which sets us up very well for next year.
Overall, we're making really good progress. The team is working together very well. We are very close to finishing the upgrade of Lerida Road, the public access road. That'll be finished in November, and alongside that we've worked hard to get Transgrid up to the substation. They established their compound earlier on in October, and the team is up there preparing for what will be some very substantial earthworks to prepare the bench.
No, it's just coming together really, really well. I'm working quite well with a civil contractor who has the same goals as we all have, get the work done. The weather's been pretty kind to us too.
With the weather it is, it's perfect construction conditions. It does give us a couple of challenges.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a drought. We think very carefully about taking that water. We're actually looking for some maybe additives we can add to our roads to keep dust suppression down rather than using water.
Our dust problem really comes from the initial clearing, the removal of the grass, and then some of the crushing work that we're doing, and it's very difficult to mitigate that.
We would really like some rain to actually, all the rehab we've done to get those seeds germinating, that holds in the dust itself too by getting cover on it. As we're right now, we've had a couple of weeks of really wet weather, a flood here one would say, so there hasn't been too much civil work happening in the last couple of weeks. I suppose the good thing about it is that the landowners have all got plenty of water again. I reckon we're about 80% on roads, so we're right over in collector group 7 and 8 now. That's the far end of the farm, closest to the collector township, and that's where our focus is civilly, with foundations following behind it. Civils, new activity starting. We're going to start putting in the underground cabling, the high voltage cabling, 33,000 volts. All the cabling is on site is underground. We've had a lot of activity down at the port. We've had nacelles and hubs come in. I've got a stockpile of towers down there. Our blades are currently on the water in transit. They'll be here on the 9th of March. The first 63 blades are here, and then about 3 or 4 days later the other 99 are on a vessel behind it. So it's a pretty busy time at the moment. The first components, we're looking to start them on the 2nd of March. So that will start the deliveries with towers and nacelles. We'll bring a couple of what they call heisters, roof stackers to site so that we can unload those things. Right, so COVID come in about the same time as we started main erecting here.
In mid-March, we started to see the effects of the COVID pandemic spreading around the world.
We had a little hiccup where we stopped for 2 or 3 weeks because one of our vessels got tied up in China with factory shutdowns.
Our transformers for the substation were being manufactured in Wuhan, in the centre of the pandemic. In addition, we had half the nacelles and hubs for the turbines were also being manufactured in China, and they were delayed for a number of months.
I always had 2 considerations. I needed to keep my workforce healthy, and I wanted to keep them employed, as simple as that.
It meant effectively the site was closed down to visitors to try and ensure that there was no infection happening on the site, which obviously would have closed down the project.
COVID-19's had a significant impact on our personnel, our subcontractors. Obviously we have people from interstate and intrastate. Some COVID hotspots have been located in those different areas.
Predominantly the one we deal with day to day is getting people to site, whether they're from interstate or even locally in New South Wales. We have to evaluate whether we need them, whether they're critical, whether we can find someone else locally to do a similar job, or whether we just have to hold the job off.
We put in a number of precautions.
Every morning when we have our contractors and staff come in, we conduct a fever screen.
We've been very lucky, and people have done the right thing. They're not going to big hubs or on their day off or week off. They try and limit what they're doing because they're really proud of what they're doing here and want to see the job out.
No, that's where we're at. It's all about it's all about me now. Oh, yeah. So I mean, we go through the stages of the work where it's about civil works. Then we go through the stage of the works where the electrical guy needs to get started, and then we bring a crane on site. Then we start erecting, and I always have a simple philosophy with that those other trades can never hold up our works. Obviously the 2 main cranes are quite expensive, and it's about keeping them busy. We're on schedule, yeah. So at the moment, as I sit here, you know, we've got 32 completely up and pushing 43 or 44 main bases and mids up before we get there. The civil contractor are pretty well winding down there. They've only got 3 or 4 people here, mainly sort of putting some final drainage in.
That has meant the real disturbance to the landowners' activities and kind of shifting of dirt, etc., has now all been completed. The other good situation as far as that is concerned is that we had some good rains starting in February. That came through and has continued through February, March, April, and what that has meant is we have had some very good rehabilitation. A lot of the seeding of the batters has taken well. Been a good outcome through the last few months.
No, our relationship with the landowner, between us and RATCH and Neil, we've spent a lot of time with our landowners to keep them engaged, to keep them happy, and to work with them. Ultimately, it's their land and we need to respect it is.
See you, Carl. See ya. Thanks, John.
It's provided entertainment for the family. I've got some young grandkids that love seeing the machinery.
It's coming together. And coming together, you know, better than you could have possibly imagined, I think.
I appreciate the employment opportunities that some of the subcontractors have done for the staff here. We've even had girls driving dump trucks, young chaps that progress from being stop-go people to driving rollers on the construction. So that's all I like to see.
it's only these few engineering projects that are keeping going and keeping, there'd be a lot of people out of work if it wasn't for this project.
The next big milestone to us will be getting power on.
So what we've got here is the cut-in into the existing transmission line. Basically, the team are putting up 2 new towers, which will replace the existing centre tower. The existing transmission lines will cut across from those into a 3rd tower, which is being built up by the substation. Drop down into the substation, connect to the transformers, and that will connect the wind farm to the electricity network and enable us to export the power when it is generated.
Where are we now? We've got the machines running, we've got 51 of them up.
And approximately half of those have been mechanically completed, which means they are ready for commissioning.
We've done some hold point testing and the farm's basically finished now.
The substation, and that is now connected to the national electricity market, and we achieved registration with AMO and Transgrid, which means we are able to export power into the grid, which from a commercial point of view means we're actually able to earn revenue as opposed to just paying out cash for the project. We have now completed Hold Point 0, which is the first of the 4 tests to demonstrate that we will operate safely and securely within the NEM.
This is our internal SCADA setup. We can see the whole wind farm as a collective. So we've logged into turbine 41. That's one we have running at the moment. So we can see all things, the power it's producing, the nacelle direction, temperatures, all the data the techs need to keep it running.
The other good news that we have on site is that it's been a fantastic weather season. We've had lots of rain, lots of sunshine, which means perfect growing conditions. The rehabilitation around the place has been fantastic. There's some really good growth of grass and other vegetation. We still have 3 turbines that are yet to be installed.
We had some met masts on 3 sites. They're just coming down, so we've got the crane back and we're going to build those last 3 machines.
We are now almost complete. We have all 54 turbines installed. Turbine 61 finished installation in January.
We are where we want to be. We've got most of the machines running now. We're just doing the final demobilisation of the works and fixing those little things that need to be fixed at this stage of the project. And we want to get out of here, to tell you the truth, and give it to our service department to look after for our customer for the next 25 years, hopefully.
So 19 months ago we set out on the construction of the Collect wind farm, building a new wind farm on 5 properties, running stock and a little bit of cropping. It's been pretty successful given the challenges that we faced. We've also managed to ensure that we haven't disrupted the property owners' farming operations too much.
In terms of my general operation, we've had 2 lots of shearing since. They'd done really well in those paddocks. So in terms of the impact of my farming activities, very minimal whatsoever. In terms of noise, I consider them less noisy than the ones across the road, which have been there about 10 or 15 years ago. So obviously the technology's improved.
We've been up there when they've been working and nothing to be worried about.
Certainly the landowners are pretty pleased with the outcome.
Oh, it's been quite a bonus for me. Yeah, more than happy to have the income from the towers, and it'll ensure the viability of the operation for years to come, for my family and their kids.
Just to have a contract you know, that you can say, well, we have some stable income has made a huge difference just looking down into the future. You know, we can see the way ahead, and it's not a huge amount of money, but it's that stability that makes all the difference, I think.
Overall, I think it's been very successful as far as we're concerned.
I think our customers are reasonably happy with our performance, or very happy. I'm going to use the very happy, and it's been a well-planned, well-executed job, and good thing about it is really no one ever got hurt doing it.
We've really benefited on this project from having the same team, or largely the same team that we had on Mount Emerald and also our Collinsville Solar. It's been great to have Renee's continuity and also Neil's extensive involvement in this project, and between our team and also the Vestas and Civilex teams, it's been a very well run site, and that's been one of the real good aspects of this project, is just how smoothly so many of the things have gone since the commencement of construction.